Life is one of the heaviest beams that one can try to support. It is known to go through storms, heavy winds, and downpours. But you are built to stand and not collapse. I challenge you to grow out of your comfort zone. The biggest giant that you will ever face in life is your mindset. One of the biggest things that limit us and keep us defeated is the opinion that we have of ourselves. When I changed my mind, it changed my life. I didn't just survive, I bounced back better. I bounced back better. Bounce 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 back better.
You're now listening to LifeStruction with Eric.
Imagine not being able to enjoy your childhood. Imagine basically just living your teenage years in pain, isolating, being constantly abused by someone who should basically have been your protector. These painful experiences definitely will cause us to basically shut down. But the key to bouncing back is developing a specific plan to fulfill your God-given life purpose. Hello and welcome to the LifeStruction with Eric podcast. I am your host, Eric, and today we have author and coach Latarsha Haughton with us, and we're going to chat about basically how she rebuilt her life after being stripped of her self-worth. And I'm so excited for this today. Welcome to the show, Latarsha. How are you?
How are you? Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be a guest here with you.
Definitely. I'm honored to have you. I mean, I was happy when I was basically contacted about having you on, and when I received the link to be able to read your story, my mouth was just like, the entire time, amazing comeback story, amazing, painful, but amazing comeback story. Before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Latarsha Haughton. I am an author of a book called Breaking the Silence. I use this book to write my story and just hope that my story will inspire others to tell their stories, because we never know when we share our story, we are unlocking someone else's prison. A lot of times we are afraid to speak up like I was, and now I'm able to use my voice and be a voice for others. I also have a online course called Just As I Am. It's a 12 steps to self-love coaching program, teaching men and women how to love themselves. And that's something that I did not know how to do for a very, very long time. And I'm so happy and I'm so joyful that God used my story to help me to be able to help others.
Definitely. Yeah. And because you definitely have a story to tell. And it's amazing how, because, a lot of times it's like we have the story, but we're just fearful of who may feel like they are hurt because we're telling our story. So we hold it in. And, a friend and myself was talking about it the other day. We're not telling our stories to hurt people that may have wronged us. We're telling our story not only to free ourselves, but to free others.
Absolutely. And that was my biggest fear of wanting to tell my story, because I didn't want to deal with the aftermath.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. So, you know, I kind of explained it to you a little bit, but the purpose of the LifeStruction brand is to encourage others basically to push through their valley experience and focus on bouncing back better. So, this discussion is very much so needed. You were stripped of your self worth at 8 years old. Can we talk about this a little bit?
So when I was growing up, um, I had to move with my grandmother. Living with my grandmother, I had other family and relatives there. And the relatives that was there were also children. They were older than me, but we were all kids. One was in high school. I was 8 years old, and the other one was just maybe 2 years older than me. And they started off having me to do a lot of sexual inappropriate things that I did not understand at that time. I had moved from Detroit, Michigan, and I moved in with my grandmother in Baltimore, Maryland, because my father had came to Detroit to take me and have me to live with him, which I wasn't living with him at the time. I was living with family members. I
Hmm.
stayed there for a while and I was being sexually abused. And a lot of times I would stay outside and not go back in the house because I did not want to deal with the consequences of sexual abuse by going back into the house.
Wow.
Yes. And, and from there, I moved with my father and the abuse continued as I moved with my dad. Yes.
So did you ever tell your father that you suffered that, at your grandmother's, or you kind of kept it to yourself?
So as a kid growing up, it was always, when you're a kid, most of the times, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but what goes in my house stays in my house. It's
I
the type
already
of
knew you were
family
going
that I
there.
was
Yeah.
it's where I was raised at. So,
Mhm.
my cousins, we don't tell what goes on in behind those closed doors. We
Yeah.
were always raised as a close-knit family. So we don't talk about those things. So things are just swept under the carpet and not dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I pretty much already knew that you were going to say that. It's just a question that I had, but I kind of figured you would say that, because yeah, when we grew up, and that's one of the things that we tried, because I have an older daughter, she's in college, but we have two that's here, and from time to time they go over to friends' house and stuff like that, and we make it a point to question them, you know, because unfortunately, kids will hold stuff in because they feel like they're, going to get in trouble if they tell, no, we need to know these things, So we're definitely living in different times than we were back then, because yeah, back then it was pretty much like, yeah, family business, what goes on here stays here. But uh, just to jump past that, why is it so difficult for victims who basically have suffered, sexual abuse to open up and talk about it?
Fear, fear, people pleasing,
Hmm.
not being able to, not having an identity.
Yeah.
And for so many years, I suppressed my sexual abuse, and it only got worse because I suppressed it. I never talked about it. I just kept going, forward with not talking about this. And it's really hard because you don't. So for me, the first time I told my story, the first question I was asked, why now? Why are you telling it now? Not, I'm sorry that this happened to you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you went through this abuse. This must have been hard on you, but why now? That was the first question. Why are you telling the public? Why do you have to talk public?
Mhm.
But I feel like at that point in my life, I was doing what God was calling me to do.
That's right.
It took a lot of courage for me to be able to share my story. I
Mhm.
haven't even shared my story on here yet,
Right.
but it took a lot of courage for me to do it. And I could never tell my story without crying and bawling because I never dealt with it. I had just swept it under the carpet. And a lot of times
Yes.
people don't want to take the scab off of old wounds. People want to
Yeah.
keep the scab on old wounds because it
Mhm.
feels better, right? But when you
Yeah.
got to rip that scab off and deal with that wound all over again, it brings pain. But we
Right.
have to learn how to heal through that pain.
Mhm.
We have to talk about the hard stuff.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the hard stuff.
Yeah. And it just tells you where some people's thinking are, when they ask you why now, instead of, someone like myself, that, we pretty much, different category, but almost same type of hurt. Yours was a little more severe than mine. But the thing is, people don't realize, instead of saying why now, what you should be saying is, oh my God, you've been walking around in pain, holding this in for all of these years. It
Right,
must be a sigh of release to let it out. But
right,
unfortunately, that's why it's so many people that's walking around now in pain because they've been walking around for year after year after year, haven't learned to forgive, you know, walking around in pain, like you said, ashamed to tell their story. And at the same time, you're just harming yourself because you're the one you can't live freely because on any given day you're reminded of it.
right, right.
Yeah. So,
And it's really hard. It makes it hard because of the response that you get,
mhm, right,
and when it's a situation where it's a family member that is close to another family member, they can't see outside of that hurt, right? So they can't see that this other person has been hurt by the person that you love so much, and you can't
right.
come into their world and feel their pain.
Yeah,
So what I had to do was I had to learn how to just break loose. But
yeah.
it took me a long time to get here. God had to do this because I wouldn't have been able to do
Mhm,
this on my own at
mhm,
all. You
right,
know, God had to give me that strength. He knew when I was going to be ready to be able to tell my story. He
right.
knew what timing that timing was going to be for me.
Mhm, yeah. Well, you had just said a little bit ago that you hadn't even shared your story yet. If you want to share a little bit of it, you know, um, and we always crying on here. So if you cry, I'm gonna cry with you, but don't you make me cry. But yeah, you if you want, because I'm praying that somebody is on this evening that hear your story and look at the person that you are now and what you are doing, and you are inspire them, to be better. So I'm just going to give you the floor right now to share what you would like to share, and I'll chime in when you're done.
Okay, so I'm remarried now. I've been remarried almost 5 years, and I was married to a gentleman that he just kept continuing to cheat on me, just nonstop.
Hmm.
I went to church. Not only did I go to church, but we went to marriage counseling, we went to sex addiction clinics, and I could not understand why was it that I could not leave this man. I could not understand what was inside of me that was attracting a man that would hurt me to this extreme, right?
Mm,
So I started going to therapy. when I started going to therapy, my therapist would say, hey, every time he cheats, you would always say, I'm going to leave the next time. The next time would come, I say, okay, it's the next time. So she told me, she said, you don't know your worth. And I said, I don't know my worth. And then she would ask me questions like, what are you feeding your soul? So I was driving down the street one day and I said, what am I really feeding my soul? Because I couldn't answer the question. I wasn't feeding my soul nothing. I was just listening to the lies over and over in my head that the Satan was saying against me. You're not worthy. You're not smart enough. You're not enough. You're not doing enough. And I told her, I said, these are the things that I hear that he is saying to me. And these are the things that I am beginning to believe about myself. So she said, let's just go down a timeline and talk about these things that you've experienced. So as we were talking, it came up and I said, I was sexually abused by my biological father. And she said, okay, well, what does that feel like for you? I said, a lot of times I feel like I don't know how to tell people no. No was not a complete sentence for me. I didn't know how to set boundaries for myself. My boundaries was taken from me at a young age. My father would manipulate me to believing that if I sleep with him, this was his way of showing me that this is a father and daughter's love. So this happened for about 4.5 years, from 14 to 18. My last year of high school, I got pregnant by my biological father. I ended up having a son. I thought that having this baby, this would be someone that would love me the way that I needed to feel loved. I didn't understand that the consequences of having a child with a biological family member, the chromosomes would be so close that this child would have some disabilities, right? My son is now 31 years old and he has neurofibromatosis, which causes a lot of behavior problems, which sometimes can be very overbearing at times, And it wasn't until I started going to therapy and getting all of this out. I never talked about it. I never told my mother. I never told any family members that this was my father's son. I went to different doctors, taking him to psychiatrists at a young age, taking him to all these different neuro doctors and neurologists because we was trying to figure out like what was going on with the brain. And so I said, oh my goodness, like why is this happening to me? And I would never tell a doctor. So my son was misdiagnosed for a long time because I was mute.
Yeah.
I was mute. I
Yeah.
was paralyzed.
Right.
I could not talk about any of my abuse. I just stayed angry on the inside. I was always sad. I was always depressed. When things got really hard, I felt the first thing what was easy for me was to try to commit suicide. So I had a suicide attempt because I felt like a failure as a person. I felt like I'm never going to be able to be a good mother to my son. I got into after I had my son, I was dating this guy and I told him he was the father just so that I could get away from my abusive situation. And I told him he was the father. Years later, I had got into church really heavy. I started studying the Bible and understanding how to have a relationship with God. And I no longer wanted to live with this lie. I went to the guy who I was dating, and I think I was about 27 at the time. And I said, we need to have a conversation. And I started telling him that he was not the father. And I think that God was really preparing me for that conversation, because the first thing that he said to me was, I already knew.
Wow.
And he said, my mother and I, we knew. He said, and I explained to him my situation. And he said, I'm so sorry. And he just hugged me and he started crying. And he said, he is my son. He
Wow.
said, I don't ever want to change his name. I don't ever, because I named him after him. He said, I don't
Mhm.
want you to ever change the birth certificate. He said, he's my son. And so at this point, I thought that, okay, I'm all pumped up and I'm like, okay, I have God in my life now. I'm strong now. I'm going to go and approach my offender. So I went to my father and I said, I need to have a conversation with you. He said, wow. I said, I need to have a conversation with you. And he said, okay. So I went to his house and I said, do you know you destroyed my life? And he said, what are you talking about? And I
Mm.
said, you destroyed my life. I said, because I said, Tracy is your son. He said, what are you talking about, girl? You're crazy. You're crazy. You know what you know what this would do to this family if you told somebody that? Do you know what this would do to this family? And at that moment, I said, wow, like you are more of a coward than I ever thought that you was. Like I was always a daddy's girl. Like I always loved my father, because as a little girl I'm riding up and down the street with my bicycle, and you know how you jump off the steps and you dive into your daddy's arms, and he catch you as a little kid, and
Yeah.
taking you to McDonald's and all these different places, and I think that a father is the closest thing to that you see to a God,
Yeah.
because a
Yeah.
father is a father who's supposed to protect. And
Mhm.
God, what does God do? God protects, right? He loves us. He disciplines his children, and it wasn't until I started getting older and I started going to therapy that I when I went to him and addressed him, the way that he made me feel when I walked out that door, I went back to feeling worthless. And I suppressed it for many years, even after that, again. So I felt depleted at this point. So I said to myself, I said, wow, I don't ever want to talk about this again. I'm never ever going to bring this back up again. I'm just going to, okay, Tracy said he's the father, and now here we go. I am leaving it just where it is. And I never
Right.
talked about
Right.
it again until I started, going to the therapy sessions. And as I was going to therapy, she began to help me that I did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I did nothing wrong. For
No, you
so
didn't.
many years, I felt like I was wrong.
Mhm.
I lived with shame. I lived with guilt. And I could not live. I could look out the window and see the beautiful sun just beaming. And the sun, it just hit us different. It just make you glow. It makes you so happy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't even see it. I
Mhm.
couldn't see it because I was such in a dark place, And so I felt like I was living in a battle of not wanting to live. And so I didn't know how to be happy. I didn't know how to make other people around me happy. I was just so unhappy. I couldn't live. But the key to me getting to where I am today was learning how to reclaim my power.
Yeah. There it is.
How I was able to reclaim my power by I had to forgive him
Mhm.
first. How I was able to forgive him, I said, "Wow, Lord, something had to have happened to him for him to do this to his own child." And so I had to have a heart of asking God to forgive him, because I know that something had to happen to him as a child for him to keep on repeating that vicious cycle to other people in the family, right? And then I had to learn how to forgive myself. That's the hardest part,
Yes,
is
it is.
learning how to forgive yourself. It's easy for us to say, okay, I forgive you. But it was so hard for me to work on that forgiveness piece.
Mm-hmm.
For many years, I couldn't even wear pajamas because when I would go take a shower, he would take those clothes out of the bathroom and take my clothes. So I would have to come out of the bathroom like that. So for so many years, I will always sleep in my clothes because I felt more secure. I felt safe of
Wow.
sleeping in my clothes. I never liked wearing pajamas. And to this day, now that I reclaim my power, I'm a pajama junkie. I love buying pajamas. I
Mm-hmm.
love, wearing pajamas. If I'm just lounging around the house, I just love it. That's my comfort now. And once I started reclaiming my power, like I had to say to myself, I am smart. I
Mm-hmm.
am worthy. I had to start speaking words of affirmation over myself. I started declaring and decreeing that I was a free woman, that I did not have to live in the guilt or the shame anymore, and that I could talk about my story without feeling ashamed. I could
Mm-hmm.
tell my story without feeling guilty. I could tell my story with the hopes of being able to help and free someone else. And as I started telling my story, I had people sending me DMs that I never thought in a million years that this had happened to. And they said, how did you get to this point of telling your story? I would love to tell my story, but I don't know how to tell it. I don't want to hurt people. I didn't want to hurt people either. And I still don't want to hurt people. But I'm
Right.
not going to not tell my story for the
Mm.
sake of other people's feelings. Because for so long, what about my feelings?
Come
What
on.
about the
There it
times that
is.
I wanted to commit suicide because I had to suffer in silence? I refuse to suffer in silence anymore. I am a woman now that I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell my story so that I can help other people. I don't need
Mm-hmm.
a pity party because I'm happy and I'm
There it
at peace
is.
within myself. I'm at peace. I love myself. There was a time I did not know how to love myself. The first thing I would always do was point my finger around and tell people, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. You need to do this. But when you got to turn your finger around and point it at yourself and put that
Mm-hmm.
energy in to heal yourself, it takes a lot of energy. But
Yes, it
people don't
does.
like to do that. They like to point the finger and tell you, you need to do this and you need to do that. I used to be that woman. But
Mm.
now that I've taken the time, 8 years of therapy, intensive therapy, I did a procedure called EMDR, where it's like an eye movement to help you they used to use it on men in the military
Mm-hmm.
to overcome the things that they saw, and they brought it out into the civilian. So
Okay.
now everybody is, anybody can use this now. Any therapist that is trained in that can do it as well. And so doing that type of therapy, it helps lessen the thoughts because they were so strong in my mind. Like I could not get it out of my head, get it out of my mind. Even though I suppressed it, it was so many things that would trigger me. And triggers are important too, because when people go around saying that a person triggered them or a certain situation triggered them, you have to understand that that's something inside of you that needs more healing. If a person can trigger you, it just needs a little bit more love than what you've been given it.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, before I go any further, you told your story and you actually smiled through some of it, but you didn't cry. So one of so I commend you for that because one of Miss Carol, she said, when you can tell your story without crying, that's a sign of healing. But from reading your story, I already knew that you were healing anyways. But yeah, you told your story and you didn't cry. So I commend you for that. But I can't imagine. I can't imagine. The hurt and you know in the spite in the moment when you approach your father and you tell him, you destroyed my life, instead of him accepting ownership and manning up to the damage that he did to you, he wanted to, get defensive on the defensive end and say, "What are you talking about? If you this could destroy this family, like you said, what about myself? What about me?
Right.
What about how you destroyed me?" And I just think about you, your this is happening to you when you're in high school, so you're going to school and, we all know that, high school is some of the best, well, it's supposed to be some of the best years of our life, and at the same time you were going through, how did you even survive in high school? How were you able to concentrate, as far as doing your work in school and being able to just keep it all in, but at the same time try to, you know, wear a smile anyways.
I don't know how I did it. I can tell you it's probably only the grace of God, because I went to school and tried to keep a smile on my face, joke, laugh with other people. But on the inside, I think that the one key thing that I mastered was always trying to make everybody else happy. I think
Mm,
that is where I got my happiness from, because I didn't want them to know how hurt I was and how sad I was on the inside. So I became a overachiever, like a
hmm.
over. I wanted to people please.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
did everything. Like I would always want to make sure I treat all of my friends. I wanted to make sure, like, I always got them cards to encourage them. I became an encourager. I became this person of wanting you to rely on me, because I think that that was that codependency,
hmm, hmm.
wanting people to depend on me so that I can feel like I'm somebody's protector.
Right, right.
And
So
so, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, in the midst of you being broken, you still found the strength to encourage others.
I think that that's what got me through, is
Hmm.
encouraging other people, always wanting somebody to smile and be happy, just wanting to see other people happy, because I didn't want them to see how sad I was on the inside.
Yeah, yeah, and wow. But I can definitely, because you don't want to walk around with everybody always asking you, what's wrong, what's going on with you. So that's a great cover up, because if I'm, treating you guys and encouraging you guys, you're so busy, thanking me and stuff that you can't even see, that I'm pretty much wearing a fake smile, so
A
much. Because
mask.
yeah,
We
definitely.
good at masking. We are
I'm trying to
so good at
I'm
masking.
I'm trying to tell you, I had a post that I did last week, and it kind of showed a couple of my pictures. Well, I thought I was putting on a mask, but when I look at it, you know, almost 20 years later, I'm like, I look so crazy, and I'm sure they knew, but no one ever said anything to me. But yeah, we're good. We're good at trying to mask up. Very good. And it's funny because um, I did a I did a celebration of Arthur showcase uh, last month, and one of my authors that showcased in it, she had commented and said, "Oh my God, when you were speaking, I don't know if you saw, and I posted it on the screen. She was like, 'Oh my God, it's her son's name, Tracy. I follow her on TikTok, and I've learned so
Yes.
much from her.'" So
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. Shakira, so she follows you on TikTok, and then
Oh,
we have Darlene. She said that she had the same form of therapy, the EMDR. So you have some people that definitely can relate to what you're talking about. We had one question. Carol wanted to know, what is your relationship, if there is any, with your father today and other family members?
my father is now deceased.
Oh,
He's deceased. He died the year that I moved to Florida, which was in 2019. Women, yes,
okay.
2019.
Hmm.
My father passed away.
Okay.
Mm. Before he passed away, once he was placed in a nursing home. I think that he fell or something was going on with his hip. He was sick, and I went there. I shaved him. I kind of trimmed up his hair a little bit and shaved him. I When I say I've forgiven him, I wholeheartedly forgiven my father,
Yeah.
but I had to speak and talk about my story because it was inside of me and it needed to come out. Um, I
Hmm.
I was I was doing a radio show with a friend of mine, and it was 10 minutes before the radio show was about to end. And I said, I was 10 minutes before this show went off, I said I was abused by my biological father. And all of a sudden it just got real quiet, and it was so many people on that line. My A lot of my family was on the line, and I started getting calls the next day, like, you know, why now? Why are you telling us now? Why are you saying these things? And it was just so hurtful to me that I was being approached like that. I do have a relationship. I love my family. We were
Hmm.
always brought up as a family where we were supposed to stick together. We are supposed to be close, you know, and I don't feel like I'm not being close to my family because I'm speaking my truth.
Hmm.
And a lot of times people don't want you to speak your truth because they can't handle the truth. And I understand that. But I'm just in a place of my life where I'm going to speak my truth. And I
Yeah.
have to. It's
Hmm.
important.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Very important, because that's the only way that we free ourselves and, like I said, help others. That's my mom right there. She said she wish she could hold
Oh,
you. Yeah.
thank
But uh,
you.
but yeah, it's like how I mean, I just don't get how people question, you, especially if you have you even picked up the book and read it, and you know, kind of let it sink in, the pain that I have endured, you know, but the goodness that I'm trying to do now, as far as freeing others. Because if you can focus in on that side and stop being so self-centered on it's about you, and because I mean, if anybody should be embarrassed, it should be us, not you.
Right.
So how are you going to, don't question me about why now, because do you realize how embarrassed I was? Do you know how long it took me to come out and do this? But
Right.
like you said, that sunshine, those rays of sunshine that went away, and you was in that dark place. When you were able to start to leak your story, and the more that you leaked it, the more you found strength to open your mouth and talk about it. That's when those sun rays started to reflect back on you, and you felt, God's presence in your life again. So people don't understand, because when we're a script of something, God is always there, but we lose connection with Him. But once we start to, do that self inventory, and we're able to start, creating our own blueprint and realizing, okay, this happened to me, and, you know, this and this, and we start putting things together, and then we connect with Him, and we start to build scripture off, to find strength in scripture. based on what has happened to us and where we want to go. And when we're able to sit in quiet places and listen to him and hear him speak to us, and then we find scripture to find, for us to start moving towards our purpose. God gave you this to put your story out. So that's what you're supposed to do. And you should not feel ashamed about it, because I guarantee you, I know, just looking at some of these comments, there's some people that's endured, may not by the same family member, but I know of one that has endured it with that same family member, and you are helping them. So keep telling your story, and keep telling it with, when you're able to smile and tell your story, and it's not because you're being sarcastic, it's because you're letting the devil know he did not win. You know, you may have tried to commit suicide, but God had purpose in your life and God had favor over you. So he was not going to let that suicide attempt, you know, gain, defeat you. He was not going to let it defeat you. And that's why you're here today, to tell your story. So not only are you helping people that's been sexually abused, you're helping people that's had the suicide thoughts, or they've tried to commit suicide, but it did not defeat them. They're still here. And your story is helping people like that. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. When I tell you, it causes so many character issues, like
Mm-hmm.
the people pleasing, not being able to tell people no, being very promiscuous at a young age because I didn't know how to say no, even with getting a relationship with guys, not wanting to be intimate with them, but not being able to have that voice to say, no, I don't want to do this. I didn't have that
Right.
voice,
Mm-hmm.
so I felt myself as being this gullible woman. But now, I can say no with a complete sentence. No, I don't want to do it. And I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
So, you know,
definitely.
and I just, just being able to, and that's why I said when I was talking about reclaiming my power,
Mm-hmm.
reclaiming my power and speaking those words of affirmation over myself and over my life, and just making sure that I was, I put my confidence in God, and made God the foundation of my life,
Mm.
because I know I would not have been able to do this without God being in my life and being the foundation of my life. So when I wrote my story, I wanted to be, I'm not telling on other people. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about my experience and what I went through. And that person might be a part of the book with me telling my story, but this is my experience with that person, And so
Mm-hmm.
my encouragement to people is break free of people pleasing, break free of worrying about what other people think of you or the opinion of others. Once you get that kind of freedom, man, I'm telling you, it takes you to a whole nother level of life. It's a freedom that you just be so happy of being able to be your authentic self.
Yeah.
I don't have to put on a show for anybody. This is what it is. I'm laying
Mm-hmm.
my life before you. I've been here, but I know where I'm going. You know, I know that God had a purpose for my life, and this is my purpose. I'm walking in my purpose. I am sharing my story. I am changing lives. I am helping other people. And that's what the world is all about, being able to help other people through your story. See, sometimes we got to go through some things in life.
Mm-hmm.
We got to go through it, right? We got to go through the valley. But
Yeah.
after every storm, what happens after every storm?
The sun
There's a
comes out.
rainbow.
Yeah.
It's always a
Mm-hmm.
rainbow after every storm. The storm never lasts forever. So we go through the storms in life, but the storms always end. We
Yeah.
don't even have to shake or waver, because God promised us that He will never leave us nor forsake us. So He is with us in these storms. It's
Ab-
us that waver and get afraid and get scared, you
mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
But if we just trust the process and trust God through it, I want to just share with anybody that's listening. If you have been through this type of trauma, or if you know somebody that had experienced this type of trauma, you can heal. You go to a therapist and you start getting the help that you need. Some people will say, "Oh, I can't find the type of therapist, I can't relate to her." Then you keep going. If
Right.
that therapist doesn't work, you go to another one. If that
Hmm.
doesn't work, you go to another one. And I promise you, if you pray and ask God to give you the person, because there are divine connections,
Mm.
God will give you the divine connections. I call them divine escorts. Because if
Mm.
you start praying for God to put the right people in your path, you're going
Yeah.
to get the right connections. And those
Yeah.
connections are going to lead you into where it be in alignment with God. It's going to lead you in a way that you're supposed to be going. It's going to
That's the thing.
lead you to the direction that God is calling you to go.
Hmm.
And when you do it His way, He's going to bless you so much. I could sit here and just tell you all the blessings that God has blessed my life abundantly,
Yeah.
abundantly.
Yeah.
And I'm just in awe because I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for where He's brought me. I'm grateful for what I've experienced. I even, when I was telling you about my ex-husband, I called him back and said, "Hey, I want to apologize to you because
Hmm.
I was a broken woman when we were married. And I want to apologize to you." And I told him, "I forgive you for everything. Because if it wasn't for you doing the things that you did in that marriage, I wouldn't be where I am today, because I wouldn't have never went to therapy to find out what's going on with me." So I
Right.
thanked him, and he
Hmm.
cried, and we both cried, and we apologized, and we were able to, you know, walk away with not having no hard feelings,
Hmm.
because I wasn't a saint in that marriage.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I was a broken woman. We were two broken people just cutting each other.
Hmm.
But God was able to heal me, and I pray that God healed him, and God blessed me with a partner in my life that we can do life together with in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And I know that I would not have been able to do that without that foundation that I have. So I
Hmm.
just want to encourage you to never give up. Keep fighting, keep pushing, reach out for help. Surround yourself with safe people. I'm going to even give you a book to read. It's called Safe People by John Henry or John Towson. John Towson. The book is called Safe People. It teaches you how to surround yourself with safe people, and get another book that they wrote together. It's called Boundaries. The book called Boundaries, it teaches you how to set boundaries for yourself, so that when you love yourself, you will learn to set boundaries so people cannot take advantage of you. When you love yourself, you're able to make sure that you put yourself in healthy situations. And I just want to encourage you and let you know that you are loved, that you are worthy, and that God has a purpose and a plan for your life. And I promise you, if you go after your healing, you're going to be the happiest person on this planet. I'm telling you, it's the best feeling. And once I started healing, I was happy. We talked about how I would look outside and not be able to see that beautiful sun beaming. It
Hmm.
can be raining right now, and I can still see that sun, and I can
Yeah.
still feel that joy on the inside of me. But it took
Hmm.
me to go through all of these things that I went through to get to this place. Healing is so important. It's so important. I see people passing away, dying with burying so many dark secrets. Get that
Hmm.
mess out. Release
Yeah.
yourself of it. Reclaim your power. and learn how to love yourself. God says that we ought to love your neighbor as yourself. People always get it mixed up because it says love your neighbor, but he said you got
Mm-hmm.
to love the neighbor as yourself. If you're not loving yourself, you cannot love that neighbor.
No, you cannot.
You cannot.
Yeah.
So you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm.
So get your cup filled by learning to love yourself, get that healing that you need. Sometimes people walk around angry, bitter, just snapping at everybody. That's because you're in a place of your life where you have not healed. Go back and reclaim your power. Reclaim the power.
Ooh.
You're worthy of it.
Yeah. I knew the fire was gonna come out of you sooner or later. I knew you was gonna release a word sooner or later. I was like, it's gonna come out soon. Yeah, you that blessed me. If it didn't bless nobody else, that right there, it blessed me. Um, I I kind of when I found you on social media, I kind of stalked your Instagram a little bit, and I saw something that you speak on quite a bit. Uh, when you have been broken, why is it so important to do a soul cleanse, reactivate self love first, and train your mindset to live a positive life? Why is that so important?
It's important because we have to unlearn some things that we have learned. You know, growing up, our parents, they teach you the way that they were taught. Does that make it
Hmm.
right? Does it make it wrong? But as you're growing as a person, we have learned a lot of things that we need to unlearn. So it starts with the battlefield of the mind. Joyce Meyer is always telling us we need to play mental gymnastics in the mind because the mind is the
Mm,
battlefield. That's where
yeah,
you have the most war at going on in your world, you know?
right,
And
right.
so we think 60,000 thoughts a day. Out of 60,000 thoughts, majority of them thoughts are going to be negative thoughts
Hmm.
if we don't learn how to unlearn some things. So we have to change those lies that we hear in our mind with truth. So when you hear, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't want to go on that job interview, or I can't speak in front of that many people, or I can't write a book, I can't do this, I can't do that. That is when you have to start telling yourself, yes, I can do it. And sometimes you have to
Right,
speak out loud, you know, and you got to think about it. Mind, body, and spirit is all one because
yes,
you have to have the mindset to do the things that you need to do. You have to have that mindset to not think those negative thoughts. And then your physical, you got to take care of your body. You got to go and start working out, or the working out helps with depression, eating healthy. It helps. All of that is tied together. The soul cleansing, making sure that you forgive, making sure you have a heart of gratitude,
mm,
making sure that, you know, if you don't want to have a conversation with the person, you can write a letter.
right.
Write a letter. Even if you don't want to send it to them, get it out. Go
Hmm.
to therapy. Start reading a book. Invest in yourself. I spent years investing in myself, you know, getting coaches. I had to get me a business coach. I needed to get a coach to help me, through a lot of the things that I was working through, so we have to invest in ourselves, start reading is so important. It helps change the mindset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That reading is very, very important.
It's vital.
Eh, definitely, definitely. Stop Googling everything and read. It's
Yes.
yeah. I mean, my in the past year and a half, my library has grown so much, and I'm just like, and now I'm getting to the point I want to go back and read. It's like 5 reads I got. I want to read them again. Because it's
Yeah.
reading a book is almost like watching a movie. Every time you read it, just like the Bible. Every time you can read that one scripture uh, once a month for 15 years, but every time you read it, it's going to mean something different to you.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Every time.
hmm So,
Yes, it
you
is.
are the founder of Breaking the Silence and Healing the Pain. It's a nonprofit organization. What is your primary focus on this, and why are you so passionate about it?
This is dear to my heart. I used to always say it was sexual abuse, domestic violence, and emotional abuse because I went through so much of the emotional abuse and the sexual abuse, not more so the domestic violence piece. But I'm passionate about it because I know what that pain feels like
hmm
personally on a very deep level. And so I know the state of mind that it can put you in if you don't heal. And so I'm passionate about this because I love people and I want to see people win. I want to see people heal. I want to see the people become the best version of themselves. I want to see people walking in their purpose because we are all here for a purpose. And God
hmm
wants to use us because if I could help one person, that one person might help 10 more people.
Yeah,
That
there it
person
is.
might help another person. And that's what makes the world go around. And so it's
hmm
important to heal. I'm passionate about it. I will help anybody that reaches out to me.
I love it. I love it. You guys heard it. She'll help anyone that reaches out to her. So, her website, is strolling on the bottom there. So definitely take the time and write that down. And
And
if
purchase the
if
book.
that's what you just took the words right out of my mouth. If nothing else, get that book, Breaking the Silence. Talk a little bit about the book. Amazon. I know, or you. Well, if you're like me, you prefer people to go to your website and get the book.
Yeah, but you can. My book is on Amazon. It's in Books a Million, and it's at Barnes and Noble. You
Nice.
can, when you click on Amazon, you would type in Breaking a Silence, and it's by Latarsha Haughton because there's so many Breaking a Silence there that they had to say by Latarsha Haughton. And when you click on the link, it's going to show Kindle. But then, I mean, once you click on the link, when you first look at it, you'll see Kindle. But once you click on the link, and then you'll see it's a paperback too that you can purchase because some people like Kindle and some people like the hardback. But the book is very inspiring. At the beginning, it can be very deep and very heavy, but you got to read it through because it gets so inspiring and it's so much that you can relate to in this book. And it's not just about me breaking my silence, but it talks about healing. It talks about church hurt. Talk about my relationship and how I had to forgive and writing letters to people. You know, I had to write to letters to people, write letters to my children, asking them to forgive me because I was there physically, but I wasn't always there mentally. So please support. And even if you know somebody that can benefit from this book, purchase a
hmm
copy and give it to them. Okay.
Right.
And if somebody
Yeah.
is having a hard time with purchasing a book, send me an email, DM me, and I will send you a free copy because I want to see you heal.
Wow. Wow. See, and I love when, we have, people that this is, proof that, you're not doing it because, we get certified as coaches and we only think on the revenue, the revenue. We're trying to find people that we can profit off of, and that's how so many people are still broken and hurt because it's like, well, I tried a therapist and she couldn't even relate to me. Uh, this person's story definitely syncs with mine, but I can't afford to pay for their services, but then you have people like, and I was telling you before we started, I send my books to, facilities, for people to read, and it's all about giving back, and you can't put a price tag on giving back and healing people. So,
Right.
and I know that, it was only God that connected us, and I'm sure that we will be doing something in the future together. Uh,
Yes,
man,
yes.
because if you can't come to Arizona, we're going to because we're basically going to be taking our celebration of authors. We're starting a tour later this year, and we're trying to figure out cities. So Tampa might just be on our list, so we can include you in it. But it's because, man, it's people's stories like yours. You know, it's just like our last event. You know, the authors told their story, and everybody had that bounce back story, and it was just total silence in the room as Arthur after Arthur got up, and everybody that spoke, they in some form, somewhere in it, they talked about how they know it was only God. They know it was only God that gave them a second chance at life, and they have that foundation of Him today. You know, to carry them through. So I love your story, love your strength, love what you're doing, and keep smiling, sister, and telling your story. Uh, man, you just totally blessed me. And it's funny because I have a cousin from Virginia. Well, she's from Baltimore, but she lives in Virginia now, and she's on every week. And she missed today. She's not on, and she have someone.
Oh.
And today she's not on. She have someone with the same accent that she has.
Well, I just
Yeah.
wanted to share with you. I would love to come to Arizona, and I am having a conference here in Tampa, November the 19th, and it's going to be phenomenal. Like, you don't want to
Whoa.
miss it. I'm having a conference November the 19th in Tampa. It's going to
Is
be at
this
the Embassy Suites Hotel, and I don't want to announce who my keynote speaker is, but it's going to be
uh-huh.
phenomenal. Yeah.
So is this for women only or
No, it is for men and women.
oh okay. All
Yeah.
righty. Well yeah, I need that information because I'm coming to Tampa.
Come on to
Yeah.
Tampa. Come
Well,
on
let
to
let
Tampa.
let me get my words right because I know my wife is coming. We are coming to Tampa because she's
Yes,
gonna say
come on
because
to
because
Tampa.
she's gonna say, "Oh, you going to Tampa alone?" So yeah, we're coming to Tampa. So yeah, definitely,
Tell her
uh,
I said, come on to Tampa. Come on.
definitely, man. I definitely want to come. So yeah, I definitely need that information. And I have a few friends here that I think may will come, and a lot of us work with the airline anyways. So
Okay.
yeah, we can definitely make it happen. But yeah,
Okay.
I definitely would love to come and be a part of that. You know,
All right.
I'm always for taking in, some powerful info from that up. What we call it um, upgrading the hard drive. When you
Right.
when you get to hear someone powerful give you some powerful words. So yeah, definitely, I'm looking forward to it. But Miss Latarsha, thank you so much. This has been an amazing discussion. Before we close, you kind of gave uh, a little bit to him a little bit ago. But before we close, is there one last thing that you would love to leave with someone that has been stripped of their self worth? Are there any inspiring words that you would like to leave with them tonight?
I would love to leave them with I need them to find their true identity in Christ. Find a therapist and write down words of affirmation over yourself and start believing them. Even if you put sticky notes all over your mirror in your bathroom, I am beautiful, I am worthy, I'm going to be the next president, I'm going to be
Mm,
an attorney, whatever that is for you, start saying it over yourself every day until you believe it. You know, they say fake it until you make it.
yeah,
Start writing it
yeah.
and start believing it every day. And look yourself in the mirror and say it to yourself in the mirror. For
Hmm.
8 years, not for 8 years, I'm sorry, for 8 years when I was going to therapy, I had a picture of myself as a little girl on the front of my phone. And I kept that picture. This is my mommy. I lost my mommy in September from COVID.
Oh
Um,
no.
but I had a picture of myself as a little girl. And every time I had to make a decision, I would look at that picture and say, is this beneficial to you?
Mm.
How is this going to help you? Because I'm going to save that little girl that was inside of me. That's my point right there. Go back and save that little girl that's inside of you. She's waiting for you to help her to heal. Go back and save her. Love her enough
Mm.
to want to see her become all that she can be. There you go.
Girl, you just gave me goosebumps. Now, I've heard people sum up a lot of stuff, but the way that you just put that, you said, go back and save that little girl. She's waiting for you to save her and help her heal. Wow. And
And that's not
wow.
just for girls, that's for
Right.
men
No,
too.
it's not.
Go
Yeah, for
back
men
and
too.
save that little boy because that little boy is waiting and counting on you. He needs
Yes.
you.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Latasha.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely will be connecting again. And yeah, I'm just so excited for your future. Uh, you guys, please let me throw this up here real quick. The website is strolling on the bottom, but definitely, please, if you haven't done so while we were speaking, definitely connect with her on her Instagram page. I'm like, man, if I can get my Instagram page polished like hers, and when I tell y'all this sister be, I'm like, wow, East Coast, but I'm used to it on the East Coast because I told you I was born and raised there. When I tell you the sister be dressing, I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, the wardrobe, you killing it. You killing it. But you're at a point in your life now that you have healed on the inside. So now you can dress up the outside and wear it well and it complement one another instead of dressing up the outside and broken on the inside. So that's why
Right.
you are able to, you know, you just have a glow all over you. And I just thank God that He gave you, the strength to come out and bless others with your story. So your voice, I truly believe this is just the beginning, and your voice is going to minister to so many people. So I'm just so grateful to have you because I know you're busy. So I'm just grateful to have you on my platform. So once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And is your TikTok under the same name? Because I know Shakira said she follow you on TikTok.
My son, he has a TikTok, and you would never believe this, but my son have 138,000 followers.
Shut your mouth. What?
They love him. They love him. He is
Wow.
funny. He is always doing something. He's like a little Dennis the Menace. And, he has to be watched at all times because he's just so busy. But he's funny. And, if you want to watch his TikTok, if you need a day, people always saying, Tracy brighten my day. It's everybody loves Tracy. He has an Instagram page and um he
Is
has
it
an Instagram.
LOVES or LUV?
Everybody loves Tracy. It's on
LOVES.
TikTok. Yes, it's on TikTok and it's on Instagram.
TRACEY
Y.
or just Y? No, no
Just
E.
Y. No E.
Okay.
TRACY.
Okay. Let me put that up real quick. You guys write that down. Go follow Tracy. I'm definitely going to follow him. So
He is
that's why,
funny.
because I was kind of confused when Shakira said it. Is her son named Tracy? And I'm
Yes.
like, but so that's how wow, so she follows him,
Yes.
and that's how she was able to wow, that's amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing. All right. Well, I'm definitely going to follow Tracy as soon as we get off of this podcast here. But once again, I've taken enough of your time. Thank you again for coming on. And I pray that, your story blessed and inspired, some of the LifeStruction fam this evening. So, yeah, remember what she said. Remember those encouraging words. And, before we close, this is my last live broadcast until June. So, for the month of May, you guys I'll just be loading up some past episodes on Mondays, so you'll be able to go back and watch some of those. Shutting down for May, going to get some me time and go back and try to hear God as I build new content. So just shutting down. So you guys take care. I love you guys, and I will see you guys the first Monday in June.
I want to say one thing to you, Eric.
Okay.
I want to tell you thank you for showing up for what you needed. I want to thank you for being a voice for other people. I want to thank you for listening to God and doing what you're doing because you are helping to save so many. I'm looking at the comments, I'm looking at the way that people are thanking you. So I just want to tell you, I honor you and I thank you for what you're doing and for this platform because God is using you. I feel your spirit. And I just want to tell you to keep on walking in alignment with God and even taking those
Wow.
breaks to being able to hear God's voice. Because when we're so busy, we can't always hear God talking to us. So I just want to thank you and even thanking your wife for even allowing you and being that support system that you need to have this platform to help many. So tell her I
Wow.
said thank you.
Wow. You are just simply amazing. And
Thank you.
wow, thank you so. And I mean, it's people like you. I swear I'm gonna let you go after this, but it's those words that keep me going because I'm sure you can relate. Sometimes you just feel like nobody is listening to my story. Nobody, and I said a lot. I used to get caught up in the numbers, but now I ignore the numbers because as long as I get that one email or that one text message or that one comment, it lets me know that I'm walking in the purpose and I'm going towards the vision that God has implanted in me. So I appreciate those words. They were definitely God sent through you, and they were God felt through me. So thank you, thank you, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, you just blessed me. I swear you blessed me. I
Amen.
thank you so much. All
You are
right, guys.
welcome.
Well, you guys have a great evening, and hey, I'll see you guys. I don't even know the date. I should have had it prepared, but whatever the first Monday in June is, I'll see you guys, and it's going to be a new type of episode in June. So definitely tune in. Once a month, I'm going to be doing an on location, and it's going to be called the Eric's One-on-One Building. So me and my guests will be at a nice outdoor location, a nice serene location, and we're just going to be breaking bread. Basically, it's going to be a little flip on it. We're basically going to be talking more scripture uh, and just breaking it down to everyday life's terms. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah, tune in June. With that being said, you guys have a great evening. Stay safe. Love your LifeStruction fam.